Ultimately, we are individuals. I love you, James. I love you so much.
Love you too.
But I'm also myself and you are yourself, and we have our own, individual personalities and goals. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about meeting in the middle. You're listening to the 2 Cents Podcast. Today, we have an incredibly special guest. As you can see, there are not just 2 cents here, there are 3 cents here. And we have Shaun Rowley from the Capital One Café joining us to talk about the Money in Life program. So I recently went through the Money in Life program at Capital One Café, which really helped me align my values with my goals and finances. And I figured we need to talk about this because I realized that my goals and my finances, they did not align. And this might be something that you all might realize as well. So we have an expert here. We've got Shaun Rowley joining us. Shaun is the Vice President of Market Experience for retail banks at Capital One. Shaun has led the forefront of the expansion of Capital One cafes, setting the standard for banking reimagined. He's here today to tell us more about an exciting program Capital One offers called the Money in Life program.
I've been a longtime listener, so it's really, really awesome to really be here and a part of the show.
So I'd love to kick us off with somewhat of a hot take. What is a hot take about finances that you've learned in the past few years?
I think one of the things that I have learned is that it's always a hot take. The world of finance is always changing. Our lives are always changing. Kind of all of those different factors are moving elements. And in order to address that, you have to take the time and the energy to go on that journey, to really be intentional about your journey with money.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because it does take a lot of time and energy to actually, look at your finances and go, where am I at? Where do I want to be?
I think you're exactly right. I think sometimes just the thought of that can become overwhelming. So the biggest thing that we focus on when it comes to our Money in Life program is that starting point, is really making sure people have a path forward, that we're able to meet them where they're at. It's very much like the cafes itself. We want to meet customers where they're at and help them on that journey to stress a little less around money, help align kind of their values and goals, as you mentioned, with their ultimately their behaviors, right? And making sure that those can be more in line.
Yeah. Speaking of the cafes, I forgot to shout out, if you're listening to this, we are live at the Capital One Café in Union Square. So when people listen to this in a week or so, they're going to get that. But before we get too far ahead of it, can you describe what the Money in Life program is? I know it's near and dear to your heart. You're an expert at this. Break it down in simple man's terms for us.
Yeah, well, you hit it right. It is a program. It's not just one thing. And I think that's the beauty of it, is it allows for a lot of different entry points into that. Basically, Money in Life is our take on helping customers and non-customers progress with their journey with money overall. So there's a couple elements of that. One of them is online exercises, where you can go on and start that independent exploration journey yourself. When you're ready for it, we've got steps to sit down live, either face-to-face or virtually, with a Money in Life mentor to be able to continue that conversation. Or we have some different formats of doing that with some live meetup events where you can do that with others, or some on-demand workshops. So it really does meet you where you're at and help you continue that conversation.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. I mean, it allows you to be able to go through the whole process by yourself, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think you can do that by yourself, or you can do that with others, right? So much of money is universal, right? And also very individual. I think everyone has an opportunity to solve problems, when it comes to their finances. And the way that we do that is sometimes that personal step. Other times that really does require a broader conversation with a significant other, a partner, a different part of your life as well.
Yeah, I love that you all have this program called Talking Money with Your Honey, which, if y'all know, James and I are married. So when I sat down for the Money in Life program, I did it individually, actually, in Washington, D.C. at the Georgetown Cafe. But you sat in on it,
Yeah,
James.
yeah. I sat and listened, got some B-roll behind the scene footage and stuff.
Content creator stuff, you just always have to be filming. But it was really interesting how I was able to learn a lot individually and then take it back to conversations with James at the end and be like, we should do this together. And the Talking Money with Your Honey is online on YouTube, if I'm correct.
Yes, you are. So that's one of those examples of a workshop that we've got on demand. You can go see a 5 to 10 minute video, and it really does give you the tools and resources to have that conversation, sometimes, with yourself, sometimes with others. And you're right, it's really, really insightful. And that changes all the time. I know we were talking a little bit about your experience before, but I recently went through a Money in Life session. I've gone through dozens of them. And every time you do that, it's really about uncovering more about what you can learn about yourself and figuring out what's next.
Yeah. Do you ever find certain personas from people or situations that they're in that drive them to take the Money in Life program? Is there a certain life scenario that anyone in our audience here might relate to and be like, okay, this might be time for me to take this program?
Yeah, I think we often get those cues of like significant changes in life that can be a catalyst for feeling like, hey, I need to go do that health check with my money, or I feel like I need to uniquely prepare in a different way. So that might be, a change in job, that might be moving, that might be a family situation of having a partner, or something like that, that could be a catalyst for that. But honestly, it's more of that universal piece, and that's why we offer the program for customers and non-customers alike. Really, there isn't kind of a right time to wait for. It's more of the how can you engage, right now with that first step.
Well, can you share some success stories with us of some people who have gone through the program and, came out bright and shiny?
Yeah, I think there are tons of success stories that are there. Everyone is kind of unique and individual when it comes to that. I can talk about a few of them, and I'd love to hear more about your experience as you went through as well. I think one of the success stories I would give and offer, which is something that comes up time and time again, is a customer that really shared their experience about feeling the stress and anxiety about not knowing what the right way it was for them. And our Money in Life program, it's not therapy and it's not financial planning, and there is no perfect right way. And I think that was the unlock for this customer, right? Going in and having that conversation to explore exactly their viewpoints on money, exactly all the resources that was out there, allowed them to unlock and uncover that it wasn't about what was right, what felt like a predetermined path that they should pick. It was more about what was right for them in terms of their values and what they wanted to get from life, and then how money became an enabler of that, how they could really align those things directly. So it didn't feel like something they had to sacrifice, but instead felt like something they could invest in.
I love how you talked about therapy too, because it did feel like therapy. And they are not licensed therapists, but shout out to Tracy at the Capital One Café in Georgetown, because she felt like my financial therapist in that moment. Just walking through, what are your goals? What are your values? And how do your finances align with that? You don't really think about it until you're put in front of a chart and you're supposed to map it out. And in that exercise, I learned that it wasn't aligned, like my goals and my values. And James got to witness that in real time.
Yeah, actually, so from a third person sitting in on the session, I posed a lot of the questions that she actually brought up to Hannah to myself to see what my answers would be, and if I went through the program, what it would look like. And I can honestly say that during her session, there was a lot of questions that I didn't have answers to be honest. And I think it was more so just I haven't taken the opportunity to look at money in the same way, or even look at how money impacts the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's very, very common, right? And we hear that a lot. And I feel that personally, right? Because money is one of those deeply personal topics. And because of that, it can have, a veil over it, or it can feel some taboo to do that. I know, at least for me personally, and for many of the customers that we've seen through the program, they feel like they have support and resources in lots of areas of life. And they feel like there are a lot of instruments or tools that are out there to help them. But it's more of I haven't started that conversation with myself, right? Like I really haven't talked about that. I can relate to that personally because growing up, we'd have family dinner conversations about kind of anything at the dinner table, but we really never talked about money in that way, right? Only to a certain level. And then it became we don't ask that question, right? It almost was like impolite.
Politics, religion, and
Yeah,
money. You don't talk about it.
yeah, and I think there are ways to do that, right? Where it's actually not about the right or wrong path, but it is about, how you feel about those things. And again, how you can create more alignment overall so that it doesn't feel like it's something that you have to work against. Instead, it's something that becomes a part of your goal and a part of your life strategy.
Can you give us some examples of, tangible experiences of people walking out of the Money in Life program and feeling, what did they take away from it? What goals did they now have set, or what was next for them?
I can remember one pretty vividly, which is an individual that came in. They were really, really struggling with paying down student debt. The interesting thing was, I think this person came in and they wanted the tactical plan, right? Give me the balance that I have, and how do I actually, set up a plan, right? Like come up with a calendar. What they actually learned from going through the journey of Map My Spend, which is an online exercise that we have, is they were able to identify that a lot of their spending habits were not aligned with paying down that debt. And a lot of their activities were actually fueled around some of the stress and anxiety they felt with paying down that debt, right? So I don't know if you do it, but I definitely am guilty of some retail therapy.
You shouldn't have asked me this yesterday.
And those small purchases, right, in the moment feel like they are going to provide relief or they're going to provide excitement. And, through this activity, this customer was able to map those things out and realize, wow, those are steps that are actually working against me. And there are still ways for me to budget entertainment and excitement in other ways. But if I'm more intentional on that, I can actually get more enjoyment out of that in a really purposeful way. So it was one of those great conversations where you really thought you were going to go in with this just tactical, I have to follow the plan. And you came out with these insights that could benefit you regardless of what your situation is going forward.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, because my expectation of the Money in Life program was that they were just going to do, a spreadsheet of this is what you should be spending your money on. Yeah.
Yeah, like a pie chart.
Yeah. Don't buy that.
Yeah, but instead, I was walked through step by step. What are your values? What do you care about? How does your money impact your psychology? And does that align with your financial goals? And like I mentioned, I realized I was not well aligned at all. I mean, one of the values that I remember calling out was freedom, but feeling like my finances weren't actually allowing me freedom. Like I was still feeling a lot of scarcity mindset, a lot of hoarding, that I was scared to let go and indulge in things. Like James and I talked about it, that one of our goals has always been financial freedom, but it's almost like the goalpost keeps moving, that the more we make, you would think that we'd be closer to the financial freedom, but it almost feels scarier, like what if it's gone tomorrow? Like, so now we're holding on to it. So our values just aren't really aligning with those goals. And it makes us have to take a step back and reevaluate. What is the next step? How do we approach this?
Yeah. And I think a good way would be, with some of those self-guided tours or self-guided exercises and stuff that they have. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what you're talking about. I can remember a customer story, which was very, very similar, where a customer was very focused on freedom as a value, like feeling like they wanted more flexibility, feeling like they wanted to feel less anxiety about the uncertainty of what could happen.
Yeah.
But also wanting to balance that with like, hey, I'm working because I want to have fun and excitement, and I want to invest in my community. And that was something that, I related to as well in talking to this customer. And it was interesting when they started to bucket it that way, they were able to change kind of their perspective of what that looked like. And some of our online exercises do that when it comes to Goals Planner or Map My Spend, because you're able to see things like investing in freedom can feel like a rainy day fund or an emergency fund, but it feels different when you're actually saying like, I'm actually driving myself to feeling more free about my finances, right? Or it feels different to say, hey, I'm actually going to save with purpose to invest in my community. And when you can do that and align those different pieces, again, the mechanics of it, start to unlock for you. So that's really the goal of the program, is to do that. And if you can do that with an online exercise, that's fantastic. You want to do that with a one-on-one mentor session, we have 3 different ones that we offer, absolutely free for customers and non-customers alike. And we even have our meetup activities, which is where we invite multiple people to come in and do that together, really have a sense of community as you go through that. We're not alone in this journey. And although it feels incredibly alone and incredibly personal, there is so much value in having that conversation, doing exactly what we're doing today, kind of linking arms and saying, hey, where's the common ground, and are there solutions we can find together?
Yeah. Can you break down a little bit more of the Map My Spend and then also the Goals Planner? Where can people find it? Which one do you recommend people start with?
Yeah, there is no like perfect starting point, but the first thing is to go in and see our resources that are available. So capitalone.com/local is the place where you can find our cafes, our Money in Life program, all
Link
those
in
different
bio.
pieces that are there. And once you're there, you'll see those online exercises that are there. So Map My Spend is a great chance for you to look at where you're currently allocating your resources, where you're spending your time and energy and money, and make sure that aligns with the values that you want. Goals Planner is a way for you to look at, what do you want to get out of life? And what do you want to get out of your money management? And how do we reduce stress and enable you to go and get those things? It really does change the way you look at it. And, after that, if you want to go to a Money in Life session and do a live session with a mentor, you can do that. Or maybe that's an entry point. Maybe the online exercises are something that you'd prefer to wait and do afterwards. Again, it's kind of the choose your own adventure. We really want to meet customers where they're at, and that's something different for everyone.
Quick shout out. I just want to say, when I took the Money in Life program, one thing that was really refreshing, I was kind of expecting to be sold something, honestly. I was expecting, a clause like, by the way, this is a great credit card to match your goals, But I was surprised that when we started, Tracy actually walked through like a clause, like she had to give me like a little asterisk. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not even allowed to recommend products to you by Capital One. And I just want to say, for anyone listening and our live audience as well, it was so refreshing to feel like I was actually being taken care of and not sold something. And it just made me a little bit more loyal to Capital One, knowing that y'all had my best interests at heart.
Yeah, and I think it also helped make you more trustful of the information that you were receiving, because you knew that there was no goalpost at the end of that of trying to get you to buy a product or something,
Yeah, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like,
Right.
by the way, you can buy this for $50. It was completely free financial advice that really helped me align my goals.
Yeah, I love that you called that out, and thank you for doing that. That's really important for us, is to make sure that we have that authenticity, and that is the experience we want to create. So we do set that as an expectation right away, that this isn't, financial advising, right? Again, it's not therapy, so to say, but it's also not attached to products or specific goals that would benefit, Capital One or you specifically. It's really again about having that broader conversation, and the way to do that is to eliminate all those options, right? To really make sure that it is a safe and comfortable environment for you to explore. And that's really, really important to us.
With all your years of experience and just being around finances for so long, what is something that you first initially believed in when you started your career that has changed since? Any opinions that have changed? Any advice?
Yeah, I think most of my opinions have changed. And I think that has to do with years of experience. It has to do with life in general, right? Becoming a dad, doing those different things, getting married, right? I think that shapes who we are and what's important. And to think that our thoughts or feelings about money should stay static is really a falsehood, right? So that's probably my biggest insight, is to always stay flexible with that. I remember my very first Money in Life session. This was probably 8 years ago, when we first were doing some concepting of the program itself. And I sat down, not really knowing what it was, right? Not sure of what they were going to ask me. And the very first question that I was asked was, hey, when's the last time you made a purchase and felt really, really great about it?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
I don't think I've ever been asked that in my life before that, right? Because you would associate usually spending with something that's negative. And I was expecting them to talk about discipline and savings and all these other things. And it was that light bulb moment of like, well, wait a second, like that's actually what I should try to do, right? Is to feel really confident and healthy and positive about the decisions I'm making to save or to spend. And I think that was a big unlock for me. That was something that totally changed, right, my perspective of what could be possible with our relationship with money.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because earlier we were talking about how the Money in Life program isn't one and done. Like, it's seasonal.
Yeah,
And
seasonal.
that it's like the seasons, that your life will change, your circumstances will change, your finances will change. And as a result, you might have to go through the program and you'll have different results and different goals. So I love that it's something that is not just one and done and feels like there's a lot of weight behind it. It's a growing activity. It's something that's going to grow with you as well.
Yeah, because just thinking about when we first started STS, if we went through the Money in Life program then
Oh my goodness.
to now,
Yeah.
the difference that we would have experienced in between the two.
I mean, we didn't even have 2 cents yet. So we probably would have put goal podcast.
I think that's an important thing, though, is like there's not really a shortage of tools and resources that are out there. It's really about how do you find the ones that work for you. And I think that's, part of what we've tried to unlock with Money in Life, is breaking down that entrance barrier, right? To have that conversation early and often, because it really is about confidence and clarity and self-discovery, more than it usually is about kind of the mechanics of getting there. So we really try to meet customers where they're at and then help them figure out what are the next steps we can kind of go on together. It doesn't feel like we have to be a step ahead of the customer to do that. It feels like, we can go on that journey and meet you where you're at and figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, James, you have to take the Money in Life program next.
Yeah,
After Money with Your Honey.
Yeah, Money with Your Honey, and then the Money in Life program.
I'm anxious for that. Like that is a great exercise. You think you know someone, right? Until you do things like move in together
Yeah.
or, actually combine banking accounts, right? Like those are true tests. And again, those aren't usually conversations that we have, right? We don't really talk about those as life skills or relationship skills that are there. I don't know about you, but like my parents never talked to me about when they first, merged their savings accounts or checking account. And to be able to identify that is something that can be positive. To be able to do that together has really been an awesome thing in my relationship to kind of unlock and do together. And for so many, right, that actually might be a source of frustration or an opportunity to create more alignment. So looking at online workshops, exercises, or coming in to do a meetup is a great chance to explore that.
Totally. Although I love that I did it independently to start. I did the Money in Life program by myself. So if we have any couples here or any couples listening, you could do both. You can do the Money with Your Honey, but I also recommend doing the Money in Life program by yourself because ultimately we are individuals. I love you, James. I love you so much.
Love you too.
But I'm also myself and you are yourself and we have our own, individual personalities and goals. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about meeting in the middle, but also recognizing what our priorities are and bringing that together as a couple at the end. So I definitely recommend going first individually through the Money in Life program. But do you feel any differently?
I think you're right on with that. That's how I experienced it as well. Again, I don't think there's a wrong way for that. And the nice thing about our Money in Life program is when you want to do that one-on-one session with a certified mentor, there's lots of options to do that. You can go to any of our 60 plus cafes and talk to an ambassador in person and schedule that to be a face-to-face interaction in most of our cafes, or we offer it virtually too. So if it feels more convenient or it works with your schedule to kind of do that in the comfort of your home or to do that on an office work break, we kind of meet you where you're at that in that way too. And that's really important, right? Because when you think about kind of the traditional ways we think about money, it feels like a major investment of time and energy. And that can be the barrier to entry sometimes, right? Thinking about, oh man, I have to schedule that appointment. It's going to feel uncomfortable
I
to go
almost
in.
canceled.
Like, yeah. How many times do you schedule and then cancel, right? And then not reschedule? But what we've tried to do is to make that simple and easy and available for everyone kind of on your own terms so that you can start that process and enter how you need to.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is people might also look at it as, well, I don't need to do it until I reach some major milestone in my life, like whether I get a new job or I get married now. What would be your suggestion?
I think those are great times to kind of check in. I think those are life events where, it does make sense to kind of look at that. But I'm always a fan of trying to be proactive when it comes to that. And we were talking about it a little bit before the show. But one of the kind of check-ins for me is if I'm feeling like things are on autopilot, even if they feel great, that's a chance for me to like check in. Sometimes it's not to say, oh, what am I missing? Sometimes it's actually to do an inventory and say like, what's actually going really well? So that if it doesn't kind of work out in the future, I can go, well, wait a second. I knew this was going well, right? Last summer when I checked in, what feels different now? So really taking the time to do that, like regardless of where you're at, again, in that season of your finances is really important. And I don't think it always has to wait for that life event. Sometimes if you've got the capacity or the energy to do that when things are good, like that's an awesome time to do it.
I love that you mentioned that because I was automatically thinking a negative thing, like, am I not aligned? Am I doing something wrong? But it could be that you just find out you're on the right path. You're setting your goals, you're on your way. And so finances can be positive, y'all. They don't have to be negative.
Absolutely. I'm sure you hear those success stories too, right? As you're out and you're doing your podcast of somebody that does that. That is just as important to celebrate those wins, to understand those pieces that are there. That's a big part of our Money in Life meetups too, is you get to see and learn from other people's success. You really get to create that community of saying like, I'm not in this alone. My situation will definitely be individual, but there are shared experiences there that we can learn from each other and really celebrate each other's wins in great ways.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really have learned since doing STS is that we aren't in this, by ourselves. We have somebody who's went through the same experience or has, some background in whatever it is, but you're not in this alone.
Yeah, and even if it is, more individual and you feel like, wow, nobody's ever been this before, what a great chance to kind of inventory that and make sure you can pay that forward and share that with others. I always think about that when I'm going through a session for Money in Life now as a dad, because it's more of like, okay, I'm going to take something away from me, but like, how am I going to bring this conversation back to my two boys, right? Like, and that takes a different lens, right? For me to think about like, oh, wait, like, could this be something that I could set them up early on for success or shape their relationship with money in a very, very different way?
Do you think it would make sense to bring your children to a Money in Life program?
We've got some great things coming up, so I can't
Okay.
reveal too much, but there are some things next year that some of our meetups are actually focused on students and saving and
Love
some
it.
other pieces like that. So some really great things to come.
Yeah, we're trying to have conversations with James's daughters about, or well, our daughters about finances at a young age because it's never too young to start. Well, I think it's a great time now to turn it over to the audience. We've got some burning questions. This is a great time to ask Shaun any questions that you have about the Money in Life program, and also honestly anything that you want to ask us about salary transparency, market research, career negotiation, anything like that.
I was wondering who can benefit from the Money in Life program?
I mean, I think a healthy relationship with money is like a universal need. And we recognize that. So we welcome everyone to participate in our Money in Life program, whether you're a customer with Capital One or not. You are welcome to do that. Like, again, we talked a lot about life-changing events that can be a catalyst for that. So, changing jobs, moving, changes in your family situation can be really great reasons to check in with your relationship with money at the same time. But also, I think if you've got a change in your goals or your career aspirations or other pieces that are doing that, we really want to start the conversation of what you want to get from life and then how we can align healthy habits and behaviors to enable that.
What would you say is the best way to getting started in the Money in Life program?
Well, I think coming today is a great chance for that. So visiting one of our local cafes to talk to an ambassador is a great chance to get to know more about the program and to get started. But as we've talked about, there's a lot of entry points that are there. So going online to capitalone.com/local, you can see our online exercises, which allows you to do that at your own pace. Those exercises that we mentioned, like Map My Spend and Goal Planner, are just an awesome way to start that journey, or to sign up for one of our live sessions with a Money in Life mentor. It is a great chance to do that.
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, can I ask one more before you go?
Go for it.
All right, you had a chance now to experience, the Money in Life session. You went to face to face. You got to talk to Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy was amazing.
Like, do you have next steps for what you think that should be in terms of with the program or with yourself?
My takeaway from my Money in Life session, I mentioned about one of my values coming out of it and learning was freedom, that I wanted to feel more free with my finances and not so insecure and really anxious about them. And one of my takeaways really was I want to quit moving my goalposts and actually set goals for myself to take time off, to enjoy purchases, to treat myself. My mom is a penny pincher, and she, growing up, wouldn't, yeah, she would not buy anything unless it was on sale. Like, if it's not on sale, don't even look at it. And like, we would eat at home every night, like, we would never go out. And so, I do still feel as an adult now a lot of guilt about spending money and indulging on things that I think are frivolous, but it's just McDonald's. And so one of my takeaways really was I need to work on that. I need to take the reins back a little bit, not pull harder, but just kind of release and, enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I just learned, she made me do a pie chart, and I had to check, or I had to choose for within each quadrant, what are my values? And then I had to fill in each quadrant with how well I felt like I was achieving them. And it was insane for me to have so much fun talking about my values and then filling it in and realizing it's like a third full. It's not even close to full. And realizing, like, wow, none of that is aligning with my goals. It really made me take a step back and think, okay, I need to change my attitude here towards finances. So for me, I mean, my next step is to keep working on that and keep going to therapy.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's more so just doing the program itself. Like I said, listening in on her session, I realized that I don't even know what my relationship with money actually looks like. I know that I get paid and then I spend money. I don't know how that makes me feel. I don't actually know what any of my goals are. So I kind of want to just take the opportunity to, go through the program, listen to what they have to say, help me get on the right path, I guess. And then, yeah, money with honey.
I so look forward to continuing the conversation and seeing how that goes. I love your insights around having that discipline and like trying to make that a more positive thing, I can relate to that in so many ways. And it's interesting. Sometimes we have those healthy habits and we have those mechanics, but if we haven't aligned them and we're not conscious of them, right, we're not able to get the full benefit of them. So it's awesome that you're able to get that through the program. Thanks for participating.
It's like a positive thing until you're like anxious about every single spend, and you're like, oh no, I'm not sleeping well because I'm not buying anything unless it's on sale. All right. So one last time, Shaun, tell us, how can people sign up for the program? Where do they have to go and who can sign up for it?
Well, lots of ways you can do that. Definitely check out CapitalOne.com/local. That's where you can learn about the Money and Life program overall. You can sign up for a Money and Life mentoring session. You can also find out where your nearest Capital One Café is. So we've got over 60 of them across the country. I know you guys have gone to many of them that are out
So
there,
many.
including this beautiful space. So there's lots of different ways to engage. Really, the best thing is just to go and act and take that first step, right? That first click or that first step across into our cafes to decide that really you are ready to invest and have that conversation about money.
And don't be scared. Don't cancel your appointment like I almost did. It was fine. It was painless. It was less than an hour. It didn't even take the full hour. I got time back. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to our live podcast. We are Salary Transparent Street. You're listening to the 2 Cents Podcast. We are live at the Capital One Café in Union Square. And if you would like to get a free beverage, you can go to the link in our bio and redeem a free handcrafted beverage on Capital One Café, not on us. I've been told not to say that. That's laughing in the background. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.